If you like documentaries that get under your skin while exposing injustices, the new Netflix documentary Victim Suspect will tackle that thoroughly. It's a tough watch, but it's definitely worth it. On her first solo investigation, journalist Rae de Leon travels nationwide to uncover a shocking pattern. Young women tell the police they've been sexually assaulted, but instead of finding justice, they're charged with the crime of making a false report, arrested, and even imprisoned by the system they believed would protect them. This documentary film debuted at Sundance, and Netflix picked up the distribution rights. Now, this is a harrowing and necessary piece of information that just needs to be shared and viewed. Now, the premise, just like I said in the synopsis, is that a journalist decides to investigate cases where victims of sexual assault, upon reporting the attack to the police, find themselves being charged with making false reports, wasting police time, and then are treated and turned into suspects. This is a years-long investigation where Rae de Leon interviews several of the people who were assaulted, only then to be arrested and charged. She also speaks with law enforcement and enlists the help of legal teams and legal investigators to help dive into how and why this occurs. Now, it's important to mention that this only looks at these instances that are inside the United States, so it's not a global perspective by any means. Now, I would love to see how this information is extrapolated into the broader global law enforcement community, but that's not what this movie's about. Now, there's a point where a map of the U.S. is shown, and it highlights the areas where instances of assault victims were arrested and charged because the police didn't believe them. Now, I found it interesting and very telling by the geographies as well as the interview footage. A vast majority came from the southeast region of the U.S., and it was demonstrated through actual video footage how it was sort of a good old boys club. The cops went into the victim interview already believing the victim was lying, and the lack of follow-up or actual investigation on those that were accused, it was sickening. There's one interview that's shown where the cop actually feeds the suspect his alibi, and then asks him to confirm what the cop just said was true, and then the suspect just goes along his way. Now, some of this is due to political or social influence. When rich or established families have somebody who's accused, well, they're just such powerhouses in their communities that they have sway within law enforcement, and they're automatically looked upon favorably. Now, a lot of the time, these cases are also due to the fact that the cops aren't adequately trained. They take the exact same tactics they'd use when trying to get a confession from a murder suspect and apply them to the sexual assault victim, working to demolish any confidence the victim had, and then over time, convincing them that they had made a mistake. Now, there were multiple times throughout this when I wanted to take just a 2x4 to somebody's head. It was so maddening and heartbreaking and almost unbelievable. But again, there's video and audio footage of the cops treating these victims in this way. So as unthinkable as the scenario is, it happens. The documentary is put together really well, with a very cinematic look to the entire production. And I love the way the narrative itself is established and then told. It's chronological, and it's easy to follow the timeline. And I was drawn in thanks in large part to the reporter De Leon. She's earnest and well-spoken, detailing out her struggles and speed bumps that she encountered along the way during this investigation. It's also very rewarding to see the changes that are introduced and demonstrated. So this isn't just a film that points out a ton of shortcomings and horrendous practices and then ends. It shows how the information is being ingested and assimilated to be used in training new and veteran investigators so that they can better address victim needs and actually solve the crimes at the same time. Now, that's another disturbing area that's brought up in the documentary. Because these victims aren't believed and then they're treated as liars, and then they have their cases closed because they themselves were arrested, the real perpetrators of these heinous attacks, they're just left to roam free and victimize other people. It's pretty sickening at the level of disbelief and then laziness the cops employ in order to clear a case with the least amount of effort possible. Now, the film was a quick watch at only 95 minutes, but it's done so well and it's worth the time. Yeah, the information is harrowing and disgusting, but it's also inspiring to see how one journalist's dogged investigation shed light on a troubling pattern in law enforcement, leading to actionable changes for the better. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and while no violence is shown, there are horrific descriptions of violence and sexual assault. Now, as a reminder, I don't give couch ratings to documentaries, but I highly recommend checking out Victim Suspect on Netflix. It's a very important area of discussion that really needs exposure. So, what are you watching right now? Anything binge-worthy? Let me know about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.